Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm a success coach, speaker, and business consultant, and my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time 10 years ago. We moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it, and now we're living our best lives. And all along on our journey, I've said that someday when we get our quote-unquote shit together, we will help others. Since then, we've both done a lot of self-work and built successful businesses. So that day is here, and one of my ways of paying it forward is through this podcast. Each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone. Welcome. This week, I am doing a solo podcast. I actually miss doing my solo podcasts. And it's been interesting these past couple months since the start of COVID. I've obviously had more time at home, so I've been able to work on building more relationships, connecting with others, and finding some really great podcast guests. So I looked at my feed on Stitcher, and the last solo episode I did was March 21st. So yeah, like 2 months. 2 months I've had guests on every week. And then Ryan and I, we do our joint podcast episode once a month. So I don't really count that as a solo episode. Solo episodes, I don't know, I'm going to say they're probably more difficult because you need to think of all the content, right? When you have a guest, you really rely on the guest to bring the content, and you might have some questions prepared. I definitely do a lot of research before I have a guest on. Most podcasters do not. I do. I try to read their book, make sure I have some type of connection with them, and do a little research on their background. If they have a podcast, I always try to listen to their podcast, give them a rating and review, and really just spend some time. And like I said, most podcast interviews do not. If you pay attention and listen to them, you can tell they're just following standard questions that they might be asking other guests as well. Google Docs are very popular now. I have one, but mine's more simple. But anyhow, so it's just been interesting. I like all sorts of podcasts, so I'm not judging anyone. I listen to all sorts. I have to say, though, I mostly listen to ones that are solo. So like I said, this has just been an interesting journey, and I wanted to spend my next couple Sundays sharing my journey and learning with all of you. And it's not from a, oh, here I did this type of thing, not at all, but more of hopefully spurring some ideas for you. And it might not be the exact same idea or thing that I tried or did or learned from, but maybe there's like a caveat or a segue where you're like, gosh, okay, I know someone like that. Maybe I can reach out to that person. Or I see that she's writing on Medium. Maybe I should try to write for Medium or Huffington Post or Tiny Buddha. I've heard all these other great platforms. So that's what I'm sharing. I just want to maybe give you some ideas where you can take a step forward in your life and make some changes, hopefully, for the better. We're all trying to get better as people, and I always am. So hence why I'm always learning, growing, talking to people, connecting, reading books, taking courses, etc. One of those things that has been really beneficial, and I had the advice from Kara Alwell months and months ago, and that was to pay more attention and spend more time in Facebook groups. And I have to say, she was right. I've said this a million times before, but I only really got active on social media last April, so April 2019. And I was really, really hesitant about the Facebook thing. And then I was very judgmental about all the Facebook groups. I'm like, oh my gosh, I always got a Facebook group. Well, shame on me, because that has become the biggest win, is all the Facebook groups. And now I can't even count how many I'm in. And obviously I'm more active in some than others. And I've had to decline being in some just because I'm in so many. And if you are someone that's a health coach, probably not my wheelhouse. So probably not in that Facebook group, just giving that example. But I even started my own Facebook group months before COVID, and it's called Good Vibes. And I would love to see you in it because, as I said, now I love Facebook groups. I have been able to connect with so many people. I've learned so much. I started originally getting excited about them when I had a question about something, when there was something that Ryan and I couldn't figure out that we were working on. Maybe it was podcasting, maybe it was being an affiliate. And heck, you know what? Ask in a Facebook group. There's always someone that knows something and has a tip. I was struggling with getting my podcast interviews from Zoom into GarageBand without it playing automatically, and it was driving me crazy. I really thought, heck, if I had a second floor window, I'd probably jump out. And I posted my question about how to fix this in the Podcast Movement Facebook group, which is a really great Facebook group. If anyone is a podcaster, I recommend that one. And there were a couple people that chimed in, and they didn't have the exact way to fix it, but it made me look at it in another direction. And I went, oh my gosh, I've been saving my podcast interviews into the Zoom cloud, and I should be saving them locally on my computer, and then it won't just automatically play. And heck, it worked. So thank you, Facebook groups. And that's just one example that I have found and been using Facebook groups for. The other one is to truly connect and meet new people. The world is huge, as we all know, but sometimes we forget about that and we stay in our own little bubbles. And that's where I've received some of my podcast guests. They have been on because I met them in a Facebook group and we connected, or met them through a different networking group. Also, the 2 summits that I was on in the past few months, the Women's Child Free Summit and also the Vision of Hope Summit, those were connections from Facebook groups. So if you're looking to expand your business or just get out there or start, digging the well before you're thirsty, I love that saying. I think that's great. Facebook groups are just such a great way to do that. And for the most part, they're free. So there are some that charge a little bit, but for the most part, they're free. So definitely check them out. Check out mine. It's called Good Vibes if you are interested. I'm just trying to build connections, share my learnings and stories just in a different format. And, I also share other people's, businesses if it fits. So I don't want to be spammy. That's not the intention. Obviously, no one wants to be spammed, but it's more about sharing if it's something that can help the audience. So check that out. Good Vibes. The other thing that I wanted to share with you was what my reading was like with medium Laura Beers. And Laura Beers was on my podcast, episode 57. So if you have not checked that one out, definitely go back and listen to that. She shares her story of how she became a medium, her training, which I think is really fascinating to learn about, and then just also some stories and examples. So we met through a women's networking group and connected. And then I had her on the podcast before I had my reading. So that's a little different than when I had Deborah Lupian on last week, which was episode 67. And I'm going to recap that experience in a separate podcast next week. So this week I'm going to talk about Laura and keep them separate. They're both extremely different experiences and both amazing, incredible, well worth it, just above and beyond. So just know that both of them are they're equal, and in terms of just learning and growing. So I didn't know what to expect when I had my reading with Laura. It was over Zoom. It was super easy. I didn't have to do anything but just listen to her. And as she explains in the podcast, her way of reading is where she kind of asks questions along the way to make sure she's on the right path. This was instrumental because what showed up in my reading was unbelievable and rare. And I'm not going to dive into the specifics that much of that because it's so, how do I put it? I can't even find a word right now. It'll be in my book someday. Let's put it like that. So her method of doing the reading is what is really key versus if you maybe follow some other mediums that kind of dive right in and just start saying things. Well, they're not really bringing you along, and they might have very general information or maybe even not the right information. So, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying the difference. And it's just important to know that because I learned that through working with her. So the first part of my reading, like I said, I'm going to keep that under wraps. I'm going to build a little suspense. You'll have to read it someday. The second part was her seeing a young man with me on a boat. Now, granted, one thing that you have to remember with the medium is she's speaking to people that have passed on. She's speaking to spirits that have passed on. They're people that you likely know, and they passed away. So she was confused on why is this young man? He's young. He's not very old. He's tall. He's on a boat, and she doesn't know anything about me or my background. And she pulled through my brother Brian, who I love and miss. He passed away tragically when he was 29 from blood clots, and it was a really tragic and awful thing for our family to go through. And if anyone else's family has been through that, I'm sure you understand and empathize, and my hearts go out for you as well. So she pulled through my brother. And she also said, he's with a big white fluffy dog. Okay. And I'm sitting here telling the story, I have chills. No one would ever know that my family had a big white Samoan named Crystal, and my brother loved that dog. So he is with Crystal, and she was able to pull them through. And so she even found that Crystal loves her name because it's, Crystal and the chakras. So how cool is that? That Crystal loved her name that my parents gave her. And she gave advice to me from my brother, which was focus. So I thought that was funny because that is something that I wouldn't say is a major struggle for me, but I do feel I probably multitask and work on various projects more than another person would. But I'll always take that advice. And it's true. I can always learn to edit something and focus more on something else. So I thought that was great advice and really, amazing that he saw that and he's with me and watching me and looking out for me. And he was on the boat with us when we had been on the boat the day before. So the day before this reading, my husband and Ryan, Good Karma Sport Fishing, had taken just a little boat ride for fun. And we went fast and we went slow. And so she was pulling all that, like she was sharing that from what we had been through the other day. She's like, the boat's speeding up and you guys are like laughing. And, so that whole experience was coming through in the reading, and he was with us. So that's pretty amazing. And this is probably the big kicker of this whole thing, is I had always assumed something about his death. And at the end of the reading, I somehow found the courage to bring it up and ask about it. And it ends up that my assumption was wrong. My assumption that I had in my brain for all these years, he passed away 15 years ago, I believe, was wrong. And so he cleared up the assumption. He explained the facts that cleared up the assumption. And he said, this is where he's supposed to be. He wasn't meant to be on this earth that much longer, and he's happy and he's fine and he's watching out for all of us. So having that clarity, having that peace of mind that's what's so amazing about getting more in touch with the universe, with your spirit guides, with people that have passed on, with any of that, is just to free up that space in your brain where you might be circling back to things that have been bothering you, where you might have misconceptions like I did. You might be speaking things that are untrue. Gosh, there's so many things that go into that bucket, right? But having that just clarity, so many things. And also, this reading, and especially the first part of the reading, gave me so much confidence that I made the right decision about something that was a really painful decision, that I made the right decision, that my tribe of light, which she said is really big, is behind me. And they were like, you did the right thing. And getting that off your chest, off your mind, off your heart is so important as well. So I kind of dumped a lot, but I hope it made sense. And if you've ever done a reading, or if you are a medium or someone that does readings, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear your story. Maybe you want to share it on one of my podcasts. I just think that we can all learn from these things. And that's what it is too. It's a learning. We're all here to live our best lives and be our best selves. And if you're not learning and growing, then I don't really know what to tell you. And when you have readings, it really helps you learn, and it helps you just move on, move past situations, move forward. And that is just so important as well, is we're all learning and growing and moving forward and just trying to be better people. So in my opinion, why not? I'm just amazed by the wealth of knowledge that chatting with someone like Laura brings. So why wouldn't you want to engage and connect with someone like that? I mean, her prices are incredible, and I will put her information again in my show notes. Why wouldn't you want that information? Why wouldn't you want that information from the other side? So that's just my little personal soapbox and how I feel. I've always been into tarot cards. I listen to Universal Intuition every month. She's amazing. I pull my own angel cards, and this is just another modality, another level to that whole experience that I just highly recommend for anyone, especially if you're struggling. And personally, I wasn't struggling. I was pretty confident in my choice that I had made, and that I knew my brother was with me, but this just brought it to a whole new level. I can't even explain. So again, I highly recommend, and I hope my sharing of my story helps you, or maybe someone else. Maybe you know someone that's really struggling with the passing of a loved one or even a pet. I mean, heck, she brought through my family's dog. I would have never, ever thought that. I remember every time I'd go to my parents' house, Crystal knew I would take her for a walk, and she would go right to the drawer and pull open the drawer and grab her leash. I am not kidding. And I'm sure other people have this experience as well, but animals are really smart and they can come through in a reading. So take advantage and learn and have this experience just to help you move forward, gain clarity, gain confidence. Maybe there's something else that you're looking for, but those were my things, and hopefully it can help you. So that's part one. I hope this wasn't a super long podcast, but in part two, I will talk about Deborah Lupien and probably some other experiences as well, because I'm always doing fun things like this. To me, this is fun. To me, it's fun. I might shed a tear or two for sure, but in general, it's fun. I love the spirit guides and our archangels, and I just am so grateful for everyone's experiences. So also feel free, if you are curious, I have, so many podcasts out there now. There's so many other great teachers, spiritual teachers, and people that have different tools. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about any of them. Anyone that's been on my podcast is a huge love in my heart, and I'm more than happy to share about their services or products and give you their information. So I hope you like this. And I also want to mention that my private one-on-one coaching is available again. I would love to help you if you need some help with something, whether it's struggling on moving forward. I always believe that I can help you believe in yourself and take action. And I'm more than happy to share any of my tips, tools, learnings. Even as a couple, my husband and I have been through a lot, and that's an understatement. And I'll probably be talking more and more about that as well. So I'm happy to help anyone. Please feel free again to reach out to me, melinda@melindavanfleet.com. Until next time, be grateful, be curious, always be learning, and you know what? Have some fun too. Thanks again for listening.